It is the agenda for the 21st century you're living in today. For a brave new world where everything that you cherished and held true will no longer exist.
Clowns creep people out anyway.
And now a strange trend is getting out of hand, even getting dangerous.
You know, it's one thing to dress up as a clown on Halloween and kind of go door to door and get candy, but to actually go out and try to scare people and use weapons, you know, that it's the consequences could be disastrous.
That's what detectives say happened Friday night to a group of 13-year-olds at Fountain Park. The teens were walking through the park when people dressed as clowns jumped a fence and chased them.
One was carrying a baseball bat, which is a deadly weapon. And in this case, you know, assaulting someone or attempting assault is a crime.
Their intent is unknown, but it was enough to terrify the teens and get law enforcement looking for them.
I'm terrified of clowns, and I do not need clowns chasing me or my kids around the neighborhood. It's ridiculous.
A disturbing viral trend featuring clowns has made its way to Perth, triggering a warning by police. This security footage was apparently captured at a Kelmscott home. A prankster dressed as a clown to scare members of the public. The craze began in the US and has quickly spread to other countries. WA police say they've received no complaints but have warned there's a fine line between a harmless prank and creating fear.
Based on already published crime statistics, the Federal Bureau of Investigation's report was expected to show a one-year increase in homicides and other violent crimes in cities including Chicago, Baltimore, and Washington, D.C.
Police say someone shot and killed this 48-year-old man and wounded his wife last night in the parking lot of Papado's restaurant.
The arrest of a man suspected of killing two police officers.
In just over 24 hours, between 1:30 Saturday morning and shortly after 2 a.m. Sunday, 9 men were struck by bullets in the city of Sacramento. 4 of them died from their injuries.
Well, a man is dead after an officer-involved shooting in Hughes County, Oklahoma.
Now, a deadly shooting is under investigation. One man was shot and killed, and another is in the hospital, and whomever pulled the trigger is still on the run.
When our officers arrived on scene, ultimately they found 2 deceased individuals at the residence.
One body found inside the house, the other found in the garage.
A man is now behind bars accused of shooting and killing a woman. This is Gustavo Olivio Tellez. Police say he shot and killed a 24-year-old woman in her Glenwood Springs apartment Friday.
A man was shot in his stomach and is currently being treated at a hospital right now. Neighbors tell me that they heard the gunshots around 2:30. One person telling me that he saw a white car speeding off shortly after and ran over to apply pressure to the victim's wound.
Neighbors called 911 around 12:30 this morning. They heard arguing between 2 guys. One of them was on the ground and had been stabbed.
According to police, the 54-year-old man was here at this bus stop along Jefferson near a Big Boy restaurant on Detroit's east side when he was stabbed multiple times.
German police are investigating a new person of interest as the hunt for a bomb plot suspect continues. The police say the man is being held on suspicion of being a co-conspirator. The primary suspect, however, is still on the run. Police stormed al-Bakr's flat on Saturday and found several hundred grams of explosives. German media said he was believed to have links to the Islamic State group. 10 soldiers and 8 civilians have died from a truck bomb explosion. Kurdish militants are suspected to have detonated the bomb. The blast ripped through the Durak Gendarmerie station 20 kilometers from the town of Shendinli in the country's southeastern Hakkari province.
Ethiopia's government has declared a 6-month state of emergency. The prime minister made the announcement Sunday. This follows days of unrest in the country.
We need justice, we need freedom, chant anti-government protesters across Ethiopia. And this week, American agricultural expert Sharon Gray was killed when protesters threw stones at her car. At least 52 died a week ago when police opened fire at a protest, leading to a deadly stampede. The fight against the government has even spread overseas. At the Olympics in Rio, Ethiopian silver medal winner Fayisa Lelesa raised his arms in a protest salute. Back home, until recently, Ethiopia had been regarded as an island of stability, surrounded by unstable Somalia, Sudan, and South Sudan. The US sees Ethiopia as a key ally in the region and annually hands out just under $1 billion in aid.
There are a total of 33 people that were injured, 7 employees, 2 on the piece of track equipment, 5 on the train, and 26 customers. 4 serious, 1 with broken bones, that underwent surgery yesterday.
Both trains were running in the same direction. One was a work train, one was a revenue train, and they sideswiped each other. The question is why? And rather than speculate on all the possible reasons why they could have sideswiped each other, I think the best course is let NTSB do their work.
So this story has gone national. Bethesda Chevy Chase High School opted to go with homecoming royalty instead of a homecoming king and queen.
And now students tell us the school has at least one transgender person in the top 8. The nominee tells Stephanie Ramirez it's not easy.
Cameron Pincus is a senior here. He tells me being in the top 8 is both exciting and a little bit scary.
I think it's super cool, you know, to have this decision be made and then to have someone of, you know, not cisgender appear in the nominations. But there's also that like fear that this is a social thing and that people are nominating you as a joke.
Legally, Pincus is a female student at Bethesda Chevy Chase High School, but to family and friends, he's a transgender male named Cameron. And Cameron tells us he had no idea the Student Government Association even voted for a gender-neutral homecoming court this year.
I'm honestly surprised that the school did something so big, like made such a change. So personally, I don't think it's something that I would, not because I don't want to, but because I thought that it would take a lot more fighting for it to get to.
The story has since gone national with publications like Teen Vogue, Cosmopolitan, even Time Magazine picking up online versions.
Yeah, no, not really.
The reactions at the school were not all accepting. On our Facebook page, some bashed Montgomery County for the school body's decision. Others evoked religion. This has gone too far was one of the biggest responses. Cameron heard some of these firsthand, but he tells me he's not discouraged. He actually says he welcomes a dialogue.
It occurred to me that this is an opportunity as much as it is a backlash to show that it's a positive.
It started happening last fall with the enterovirus outbreak, and now an Oregon mother waits as doctors struggle to find answers and to help her daughter. Just before Christmas, she got what her parents thought was a common cold, but within 12 days, she was paralyzed from the neck down.
She got a cold, and now she's never going to walk again. How do you ever get your mind around that? It's just so hard to understand.
Doctors have diagnosed Mackenzie with acute flaccid myelitis, a condition that affects the spine, preventing the brain from sending signals to the body. Doctors know what the condition is, but not what causes it.
The prognosis for this, unfortunately, is challenging because these cases are new.
Since August, more than 100 children in 34 states have developed sudden weakness after contracting AFM.
We suspect that it's the enterovirus D68, but we're not sure. We haven't been able to prove what has caused the paralysis in these children.
Some, but not all, of the children with AFM were diagnosed with enterovirus D68 in the past 6 months. So enterovirus may be one possible cause, but not the cause of paralysis.
We've tried a number of different treatments throughout the country, and nothing has seemed to work for these children.
2 years ago, Dominic Howard had big plans for his senior year.
I was really big into soccer.
But instead of spending all of his time in the classroom and on the field,
It was really odd how it all started.
he was bound to a hospital bed for months with a condition still puzzling doctors around the country. It all started with a sore throat.
And one day I woke up and I couldn't swallow anymore.
Doctors originally told him he had bronchitis. He went home.
They said, bronchitis, so I made some chicken noodle soup, and the chicken noodle soup came out of his nose.
Within a few days,
and then it just fell apart.
Dominic's condition worsened.
I woke up and I had difficulty moving my neck and my arm.
His mom, Leslie, rushed him to Children's Hospital, Colorado. During the next 8 weeks, Dominic was placed on a ventilator and feeding tubes. Parts of his body went numb.
It was scary.
Didn't know what was happening.
He was diagnosed with what's called acute flaccid myelitis.
There is evidence of inflammation.
And now doctors are worried the same polio-like illness may be circulating again.
My concern is that we are seeing a trend now in 2016 that mirrors what we saw in 2014.
According to the CDC, in 2014, 120 cases of AFM were reported, just 21 cases in 2015. But so far this year, there have already been 50 reported cases. As doctors continue to search for the exact cause of the illness as well as a vaccine,
I can lift my arm up and down and go forwards and backwards.
patients like Dominic hope for a full recovery.
Doctors believe AFM is a rare complication from enterovirus D68. More research does need to be done, though, to link the two together. Medical experts, meanwhile, also still don't know why it impacts some patients more severely than others. Researchers are still looking for a vaccine.
We've had 227 water rescues. We've had 574 people out of those missions that have been rescued, and we reportedly have 4 missing individuals.
Millions of people are now dealing with the remnants of Hurricane Matthew. The storm's rain triggered severe flooding in Georgia and the Carolinas. There are aerials you see right here from Fayetteville, North Carolina, showing parts of the town underwater. Some areas got more than a foot of rain. The hurricane is being blamed for more than a dozen deaths in the U.S., many of them in North Carolina.
Get her in here. She's standing on top of her vehicle. Do not go out. We're good. Keep on straight.
I'm out with a white car and a lady in a red coat. She's standing on top of the ramp. Hold on. We're coming. Hey,
We're coming for you.
What we tell you? Hey, let me get back there and get her.
You gonna get her?
Yep.
The MLK exit. You see, we got the fire department blocking off the roadway. We are currently trying to rescue this woman. Her car got stalled out. She got caught up in the flood. She has her child with her.
Typhoon Eri continues to linger in the South China Sea, bringing heavy rain to China's southeastern coastal areas. Weather authorities say the storm's expected to move northwards on Monday to China's Hainan Island and Guangdong province. Experts have yet to figure out whether the storm will make landfall in China, as they're not sure if the cold weather system heading down from the north will disrupt the typhoon.
It's a graveyard. Hundreds of fish dead. Hundreds.
Batfish, pufferfish, trout, and even bonnet-head sharks, all littering the shore near Wiggins Pass.
Rain and sleet have lashed northeast China's Heilongjiang and Jilin provinces, with temperatures dropping sharply by more than 10 degrees Celsius. The capital, Beijing, also saw a chilly weekend with strong winds and heavy rain hitting the city. North of Beijing, the Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region was hit with continuous snow that resulted in traffic blocks in some areas. Local police rescued at least 24 people stranded in snow-covered roads in the Shilin Gold League.
Is the presidential race crushing the spirit of you, the American public? That is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. No matter who wins the White House, tens of millions of voters will be angry. The Trump audio tape scandal is yet another tawdry display in a campaign full of them. So there will be no coming together after the vote. Bitterness will rule. Both Trump and Clinton have polarized the country, and the division is vast. Seems every day there's more depressing political news. It's almost high noon daily. For example, unless Donald Trump can marginalize the vulgar tape exposure in tonight's debate, he will likely lose the election. Mr. Trump must somehow redeem himself in 90 minutes, a tough challenge to say the least, because he's essentially alone. If any public person defends Trump, they will be branded as female haters by the media. That's why you're seeing so many Republicans bailing on Mr. Trump. As for the candidate himself, pointing out past dubious behavior on the part of the Clintons will not be enough. He must persuade the voters that he is worthy of the top job, not that his opponent is not worthy. The presidential campaign has been horrendous. Both political parties have enormous problems, and those are reflected by the candidates. Think back to JFK, Ronald Reagan, Harry Truman, Bush the Elder. These were men who engendered respect. It is true that the ideological press and the instantaneous presence of social media make it almost impossible for candidates these days to retain positive images or to survive big mistakes. The constant pounding Clinton and Trump receive has diminished both of them in front of the folks. Every misstep, every character flaw becomes a Times Square billboard. In my lifetime, I've never seen political hatred like this. Result, few Americans feel good about the presidential election. Talking Points now believes many Americans will sit the vote out, their spirits crushed by the nastiness of it all.
Recent satellite images are fueling concerns that the DPRK may be close to conducting another nuclear test or long-range rocket launch. Imagery analysis posted by Johns Hopkins University in the U.S. shows increased activity at DPRK's Sohae satellite launch station. However, as the tower and assembly structures on the launch pad are both covered, it is unclear whether this activity is related to launch preparations or other operations. Now, Pyongyang conducted its 5th nuclear test last month on the anniversary of the founding of the DPRK.
Devastating airstrikes by a regime and its allies. A catastrophic humanitarian situation. ISIS and Al-Qaeda taking advantage of the chaos. And a bitter proxy war. All taking place in one ravaged Arab state. You'd be forgiven for thinking this is Syria, but it's not. This is Yemen, and a war that commands a fraction of the headlines, but is no less brutal for civilians caught in the crossfire.
In Afghanistan, the number of war-displaced civilians in the city of Kunduz has more than doubled as street battles persist a week after the Taliban stormed in. The UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs says around 24,000 internally displaced residents have been fleeing explosions and gunfights into neighboring provinces. It also says that with many families on the move, this figure will certainly change.
Washington says that at any given time it has approximately 2,000 soldiers deployed across the African continent, engaged in a variety of operations ranging from joint military operations with African counterparts to medical staff training alongside local doctors. Now, according to the Pentagon, one of the primary goals of the U.S. military presence in Africa is to fight the growing threat from Islamist militant groups. That includes Al-Shabaab in Kenya and Somalia, also Al-Qaeda and the Islamic Maghreb in North Africa, and Boko Haram in Nigeria.
2 votes on 2 separate rival Security Council resolutions. One proposing a grounding of all military aircraft flying over Aleppo, vetoed by Russia. The second, watered-down version proposed by Russia, which only got 4 votes in favour. A day of high drama in the Security Council, but also what must be seen as a day of shame that will do absolutely nothing to help the people of Aleppo.
The White House said the U.S. intelligence community was confident that Russia was behind recent hacking of emails from U.S. people and institutions, adding Russia aimed to interfere in the ongoing U.S. presidential poll. However, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov immediately dismissed the accusation as nonsense.
Russia is warning of an instant retaliation if the U.S. uses force in Syria. Now, according to Sierra Marley for the Right Wing News, she asked the question in her latest report, and she's asking, remember when Obama mocked Mitt Romney for saying that Russia was a legitimate threat to us? Well, under his presidency, it looks like we're seeing threats against the United States made by Russia days after we decided to end the, quote, peaceful negotiations with them. She writes that proving Obama is completely tone deaf, Putin has now issued a very serious threat to the United States. Now, look at this picture on the screen here. He claims that he will view any American action against the current Syrian regime as a direct threat to Russia.
The Russian Defense Ministry confirmed deployment of the missile and dismissed Western concerns. The ministry said that contingents of missile troops have been moved many times and will continue to be moved to the region as part of a Russian armed forces training plan. Russia says one of the missiles was deliberately exposed to US spy satellites, but the United States failed to discover them. The Iskander is a tactical ballistic missile system and has a range of up to 700 kilometers.